Thank you, Earl. The last time I addressed a group of members of the diaspora, and I hope you noted that the chairman said the bright set of the diaspora. The last time I addressed the diaspora, I gave a speech, and I thought it was a brilliant speech. I was then followed by the director of culture, who came up, and what he did was to say, "Oh, no, do. Carry me aki go all instead market that." And the entire place. And I felt really jealous because I spent 2 days writing the speech, and he just came on, "Carry me aki go." So afterwards, I spoke with a few members on the periphery of the hall to say, why was the response to the speech so bland, but yet to the director of culture, it was so engaging? And the point was made that, Jamaicans are fatigued. Every year, every week, every day, we read the papers, and it is the same old story. Jamaica is not doing well. So tonight, I'm not here to depress you with what is wrong with Jamaica. Tonight, I want to say to you that there is hope. That there is hope for Jamaica. And I know you don't believe me because you are not clapping. But let me say it again. There is hope for Jamaica. And it will take some time, I am aware of that, to get Jamaicans to believe that their outlook, the future, can be positive, that things can actually be better for Jamaica. And as I talk to persons my age and younger, and I'm sure my age is a matter of public record, I'm 24. There is a complaint, especially those who have had the opportunity to travel. Why can't Jamaica be like New York? Or better yet, why can't we be like Cayman? What is the problem? Because when we go to Cayman and we go to New York, Jamaicans there do well. What is the problem in Jamaica? I want to say to you that a large part of the problem relates to government and how we govern. A large part of the problem relates to the structure of our economy, the type of economy that we have, our ability to withstand internal and external shocks. But you know what? A large part of the problem is how we see ourselves. Do we see ourselves as a people that can achieve economic greatness? I know that we see ourselves as a people who can stand on the international stage and achieve political significance and greatness. If you stop and think, last week we celebrated Heritage Week in Jamaica, and Monday was the culmination of that celebration in National Heroes Day ceremony. And we awarded great Jamaicans, people who have contributed significantly to the development of our society. And if you think back on the great Jamaicans, let's start with Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey, a powerful Jamaican who was, you could say, a father of the consciousness of the black race, amongst others who we could name, but since I'm speaking about Jamaicans. Which other island could have produced a Bob Marley, whose music and poetry today remain as the anthem for resistance to oppression and injustice around the world for all nations. We as a people are powerful in our political stance. I want to be able to transfer that power into being a powerful economic people. We must pay attention to our economy. What does this mean? I'm in the hall, greeting people. A lady comes up to me. She says, "You see that road in St. Thomas? It is so bad that people can't carry their produce out. You must fix it." I wanted to remind her. I said, "Well, you know, I am not the government." Her response was, "We must work together and fix it." And I agree with her. We must work together and fix it. She wasn't interested in the politics. She was interested in the economics. The people could not carry their produce to market because the road was bad. We as a people in the last 50 years, and even before that, and rightfully so, have spent our energy on fighting for our political independence and recognition. But you know, Norman Manley said clearly to us that it is now time that we secure our economic independence. Indeed, as we see in the world today, this true security of our political independence lies in securing our economic independence. I therefore say to you that as a leader of the country, I don't come from the school that seeks to pay too much attention to the politics. I come from the school that wants to see my country, the citizens of my country, feeling proud that they don't have to become economic refugees. That our friends in Trinidad don't have to say to us, "We have Jamaicans here coming to take our jobs." I want to see my people presenting their passport at any port, and people accept them and don't look at them with second thoughts. That's my generation. That's my vision for my country. I don't have time to waste on dividing and separating the people of Jamaica politically into PNP or JLP. The only P I see is prosperity. So I come tonight to preach the doctrine of prosperity. We must not be afraid of it. We must not be ashamed of it. Jamaica has the potential to be the superpower country of the world. And if you believe that, give me a round of applause. Give yourself a round of applause. One of the things that I've always spoken about, and people look at me, either I'm mad or I'm naive, is I've said that we can end poverty in Jamaica. I've always said that. And I've set that as my personal goal. We have, in Jamaica, stymied the fight on poverty by making poverty a political issue. Now, let me share a little background with you. Some of my family members are here. I was born in poor circumstances. How many people here are from Spanish Town? Spanish Town, Spanish Town. I grew up in an area that could be called an inner city. And what differentiated me and what made me who I am today, obviously, is the parenting that I received. But that parenting emphasized education. And I know that if you speak to any Jamaican randomly, they will say education is so important. But what are we really doing with education? Now, I'm not talking what the government is doing with education. What are our parents doing about education? I know that the diaspora is doing a lot for education. And I want to pause here to congratulate the members of the diaspora who, through their spirit of volunteerism, have helped so many kids back home in Jamaica. But I think we need to start a new revolution in education in Jamaica. And that's part of the intent of my leadership, to place education back on the priority, not just the priority in the budget, but the priority in the minds of the people of the country. Let me tell you that I had the privilege of serving as the Minister of Education for a number of years. And during those years, I set some targets for myself and the country as to what we should achieve. One of them was universal literacy. It is sad that in the 21st century, Jamaica is still talking about gaining universal literacy, no doubt. Indeed, the story is told, and this is what we say in Jamaica, it's a true story, of a Jamaican who went before the courts right here in New York. And poor thing, the judge could not understand him. Of course, we are an English-speaking country, but the judge could not understand him. So the judge sent to the High Commission for someone to come and translate what the man was saying. What was the charge? The charge was that this man had come to Jamaica, married an American, and they had a child together. And he wasn't working, the lady had to work, so he stayed home and was babysitting. And of course, well, there was a misfortune because he somehow had the baby, and there's a practice that is done, a traditional practice done in some parts of rural Jamaica, which is called stretching the child. I don't know how many of you know about that practice, right? It is said that Usain Bolt was stretched, you know, it makes you limber and tall. And so while he was stretching the child, suddenly he heard snap, and the baby died. And so he was before the courts for murder. And he was trying to explain to the judge that it was not intentional, that it was a traditional practice in his country. And the judge got frustrated. The judge said to him, "Write it down." He couldn't write. He couldn't explain himself. Luckily, eventually the courts decided to get a translator for him, and the charge was reduced from murder to manslaughter. I raise this very morbid example to point out to this audience, because it's a diaspora story, of the importance of educating our people. Now, some of us here might believe, well, you know, it's an impossible story, but there are many Jamaicans, some of them now facing deportation, whose situation is determined by virtue of the education that they didn't have. And so if it is one thing that I want to give to every Jamaican, it is a good, solid education. There is a bright future for Jamaica. If you look at the trajectory of world development, the new industries that will emerge will not so much be centered on natural resources. They will be centered on services, on human resources. They will be centered on knowledge. And forgive me for expressing some amount of Jamaican exceptionalism, but I think we have some of the brightest people in the world. So if the trend of economic development is going to be in the field of knowledge, then I believe Jamaica has a head start. And if we can just solve that little problem in education, well, there are really two problems. Prof, by the way, I should just pause to tell you that I have two political fathers here. Well, let me not say that, because Prof is going to get in trouble. I have one political father here and one academic father here. Prof was my professor at the University of the West Indies, politics and sociology. I owe you a lot. Thank you, my teacher. I'll say a little bit more about Ed later on. Because Ed Bartlett is the one who actually discovered me and brought me in to the political arena. So I'm very privileged to be on set with these two gentlemen. But there are really two problems in education which we need to overcome. One of them is access. You know, Jamaica has had universal primary education for over 130 years. We have had it before even the United States, thanks to our churches. We, however, have not translated that into universal access at the secondary level. So right now, I would say close to 70% of school-age cohort gets 3 years of basic school, 6 years of primary school, and at the high school level, they get 4, maybe 5 years. The rest drop out and end up on the periphery of the society and fuel the crime and social deviance problems that we have. So one of the targets that I had set in terms of managing the access is compulsory education for all. And that is a policy which we will continue as a government. The other thing that we had set as a policy was universal literacy. When we took over the Ministry of Education in 2007, 50% of students leaving primary school were illiterate. The previous government had done significant work on developing a strategy for literacy. I took it, enhanced it, made it national, made it compulsory, and we put in place a national literacy test. And since then, we are close to having 90% of students who finally leave primary school literate. Now that's a big transformation. But what we want is what you have in most schools in the United States. When we say that you have universal literacy, it shouldn't really matter which school you send your child to. The outcome should be the same. The problem in Jamaica is that the education, the quality is uneven. So there is a fight to get your child into the best schools so that their life chances can be better. That shouldn't be. In fact, my theory from the sociology that I learned is that the Darwinian type of competition that we have in Jamaica, some say dog eat dog competition, starts in the education system because of the GSAT system, where people who have good social and economic support lay claim first to the better educational places. And that continues the cycle of the two Jamaicas. where if you are born in a family that does well, it is likely that your children will do well and you will go on to continue the cycle. If you're born in a family that doesn't have the economic support, it is likely you will not do well. And so when President Obama was speaking about income inequality, the country that he chose to reference was Jamaica. In fact, he said that if we are not careful about what is happening in the United States, we will end up like Jamaica. Jamaica has the second highest income inequality in the Latin American and Caribbean region. We can't continue with that. And my thesis is that the basis of that inequality starts with the inequality in the education system, and I intend to change that. I want to shift a minute. Oliver, where is Oliver? You know, you need to put up your hands to signal my time. But I want to shift a minute to the economy. The Jamaican economy has just not delivered. People say that over the 50 years or 52 years of independence, we have not grown. That might be a statement generally true, but if you're interested in really analyzing the situation, you would see that we have had spurts of growth. And those spurts have been associated with good economic policy. I want to tell you that growth is not a mystery. Growth is not a subject that is beyond the capacity of the Jamaican state to deliver. It requires effort. It requires thought, but most of all, it requires the will. And what I see and feel that is absent from the government is the will. Now, if you were to just take a cursory look at the Jamaican economy, you would see that the major problem in the economy right now is the cost of energy. That cuts across the board for everyone. And we have diddled and fiddled and wasted a lot of time in solving the energy issue. That is something that I give a commitment that on our return to government, solving the energy problem is our #1 economic priority. Another issue that plagues the economy is the speed at which we do business. I'm certain that you would agree with me that things move too slowly in Jamaica. And oftentimes there is no reason for it other than bureaucracy serving bureaucracy and not serving people. So when we talk about the reform of the public sector, it's not my interest or intention to take away anybody's job. It is my intention to get people to do their jobs efficiently and quickly, to serve the public and respect the public, to understand that time is money and the world operates at the speed of thought. And that doesn't require anything other than a government that is serious about doing business and will ignore the politics of trying to please people who want to protect turf. So as I said, I don't come from that school. I don't come from that school. There are other things with the economy, but let's move on to looking at human rights. Man shall not live by bread alone. The human condition requires a society that is gentler, that is more caring, that is more respectful, that will advance the human dignity of the people who live in that society. And as a government, as a people, we have had to struggle with whomever controls the state to get rights. And that remains the condition in Jamaica today, whether it is the struggle between the slave and the planter, the indentured and the plantation owner, the laborers and the people who own business. It remains the struggle that we have to fight to get rights. That shouldn't be the case. We shouldn't have to be fighting to get rights from the police. We shouldn't be fighting to get rights from our government. It should be the case that it is the government of the people who, without the people calling for it, seeks to proactively advance the rights of the people. That indeed is a definition of the modern state. And that is what I intend to do when I make the call for the establishment of a Human Rights Commission. It's not ignoring that we already have a public defender, but it is empowering that public defender to actively go and see how can we improve our people by expanding their rights, instead of seeing the expansion of rights as a diminution of the value of government. And that is something that I believe is very important to the development and growth of the society. And that is something that I am committed to doing. Ladies and gentlemen, I have taken up too much of your time. We will have questions and further time to interact. You're a lovely audience. Thanks for coming. God bless.